Yellowstone. We heard it was different. We had no interest in the crowds we'd seen on TV. Our plan was to go early in the season, as soon as the roads opened. Yellowstone in early May is a gamble. Big payoffs and considerable downsides. But the rewards of being early to the park are undeniable. Here's an account of our trip from May 10 to 17, 2022 to Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons, with all its mistakes and marvelous discoveries. In Gardner, Montana, the iconic Roosevelt Arch frames the north entrance. It was amusing to see elk using the crosswalk as the Yellowstone Park sign came into view. They dotted the landscape. The bulls had shed their antlers, and they looked mangy and tired, as if the long winter had nearly done them in. We were also tired from traveling, and Gardner was a welcome sight. It's unique, and our first idea of a do-over would have been to stay here our first night. Dinner at the Wonderland Lodge was good, and the artwork inside is worth the visit. This is our Mammoth Hot Springs Hotel room, which we only slept in for about 6 hours, but at least it was expensive. We just spent the morning in Lamar Valley, and that was, geez, you can't even describe that. That was gorgeous. We're on the Hell Roaring Creek Trail to the Hell Roaring Suspension Bridge over the Yellowstone River, and then it continues on to Hell Roaring Creek.
Look at that. Amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
There's a few flowers trying to bloom right there.
Oh, look at that. Yes, sure are. And there's Kay. It's only about a mile.
You always like to get me at my worst.
This is your best. Yellowstone is as close to the west of Lewis and Clark that you'll see. On Wednesday, May 11th, the weather was spectacular, the people were few, and the wildlife was plentiful. Lamar Valley has been called America's Serengeti with its herds of elk, bison, and pronghorn antelope. The wolves would elude us, but bears were on the move. And so were we as we made our way deeper south into the park to camp at Madison Campground for night number 2. This is our view from our campsite in Madison Campground. It's a very nice campground. And ironically, we're across the street from a teardrop, The irony is that we have a teardrop at home. We just couldn't fit it on the plane.
Which is painful because we are in our marmot. Snowing a little bit this morning. We have this place nearly to ourselves this morning. We are in the lower basin, and it's snowing. This is the Blue Star Spring. Gosh, it's one of the prettiest ones we've seen. That is gorgeous. The water is just crystal clear. Clepsydra. Never even heard that word.
Me neither. It sounds Greek.
Uh-huh.
That's where we are all day.
Coming down that highway. Yeah.
The geysers and hot springs entertained us all morning with their variety. We dodged the sulfur-smelling steam despite its added warmth. Even as we walked, the weather forecast was deteriorating. The ominous clouds that gathered over Steamboat Geyser sent us packing early to our hotel for the evening, the Old Faithful Inn. By the time we arrived, the snowstorm was in full swing, but the Old Faithful Inn is the perfect place for it. Hot coffee, an enormous fireplace, and a hotel tour were just what we needed to shake off the cold.
This is the current view from our room. There is more snow forecast for about 10 to 12 today. And there are some road closures, which at least right now is temporarily keeping us from going over to the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, but I think by lunchtime it'll be clear.
While walking the upper Geyser Basin, a coyote, still in her winter coat, slipped out of the woods. She followed the tree line, ignoring my frantic efforts to trade my landscape lens for a telephoto. It's hard not to flood this video with geysers, but I cannot overstate the variety. There's over 10,000 geysers and hot springs in the park. Old Faithful is the king, but our second favorite was Riverside Geyser in the Upper Geyser Basin. It also erupts on a regular schedule, directly into the Firehole River. This pair of videos is from the same eruption about 3 minutes apart. Really amazing.
We can see you. What an amazing show. Snow, sun, geyser, perfect timing. We just walked up to it.
It's bouncing off your hat.
I know it's bouncing off on me. Crazy.
It's, this morning it was wet snow. And now this is just little dry pellets. I guess that's why the Eskimos have 80,000 words for snow.
By afternoon, we were on our way to the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, passing a mama grizzly and cub digging up snacks. The canyon rim is nearly 1,000 feet higher in elevation than Old Faithful. The wind was fierce, but the view from Artist Point made it bearable. Get it? Bearable? This was our last full day in Yellowstone before we exited south to the Tetons. Yellowstone Lake was still frozen solid. It was Friday the 13th and the snow would see us out of the park the next day. Signal Mountain Lodge was the perfect place to warm up as we awaited one of our favorite adventures of the entire trip, a 10-mile float trip down the Snake River at sunset. We were only the second one of the season, the first having been taken early that morning. We had no idea the amount of wildlife we were about to see. Our guide confirmed it. An early season trip means more wildlife.
I'm soaking it in every minute. We may not be back here in a while.
We might be back here next summer working at the campground, checking in tourists. That's not the only fox I've seen today. What do you mean, what do I mean?
You said you didn't like it. What do you mean you don't like it? This
Oh,
is-
well, what's to like about this?
You're just bad because you didn't get to go to Solitude Lake.
Yeah.
So it's been ruined. Let's go.
So the downside to an early May visit is that some of the trails are closed, like Solitude Lake. It was closed due to heavy snowpack. And then some of the trails are also closed due to bear activity. So there is the downside to being early.
What is that, like the wind I'm hearing? Like a
It's that,
waterfall?
it's that waterfall.
I'm surprised they let people like me. I saw a million people go today. What do you mean?
It was a long day of hiking, and our campsite at Jenny Lake was waiting for us. Not only did we have a spectacular view of the Tetons, the lake was a 3-minute walk away. This campground is tent only, and we loved the vibe. We took in the late sunset by the water and got ready for the lunar eclipse. This was the only moose I'd seen so far on the whole trip.
The lunar eclipse was last night. Got to see that under a Wyoming sky. So yeah, it's good. We're wrapping up the trip, headed home tomorrow, and I'm sad to be leaving, but happy to be going home. Just act natural.
Our final day would be spent in the finest of civilization. Jackson is a great town, both for restaurants and for places to stay. We stayed in a wonderful hotel, one of our favorites, the Huff House Inn and Cabins, which was just a short walk away from downtown. Great shopping, great fun, beautiful weather, and finally got to see a moose.
I am on the Grovant River. I had seen a couple of moose just by the roadside and took some pictures, and so I just thought, since they're down in the river bottom, I'd walk down by the river.
As we departed Idaho Falls for home, we looked down one last time at the Snake River, which snakes its way through Yellowstone, the Tetons, and Idaho Falls in its journey westward. It'll be a trip to remember, a trip from early May that we thought was a good idea, and now we know.